Imagine this. It's 1955. You're rolling through downtown in a car so striking, people stop mid-sentence just to stare. Not because it's loud or monstrous, but because it's perfect. Long, low, sleek, and gliding like a spaceship on wheels. Kids point. Adults whisper. Strangers wave. That car? The Ford Thunderbird. The car that didn't just show up. It showed off. A car that wasn't built for speed alone or luxury alone, but for you. A two-seater coupe with a V8 heart and Hollywood soul. You didn't buy a Thunderbird to drive, you bought it to make an entrance. To understand why the Ford Thunderbird was such a sensation, we have to go back to the early 1950s. In 1953, Chevrolet launched the Corvette, a fiberglass-bodied sports car meant to excite post-war America. But the Corvette had one problem. It felt too much like a toy, underpowered, flimsy, and a bit out of reach for the average buyer. Ford saw this, and instead of copying the Corvette's formula, they did something bolder. They invented a whole new category. The Thunderbird wasn't a sports car, it was a personal luxury car, a brand new idea in the automotive world. It combined the looks of a roadster with the comfort of a Cadillac. It was stylish, powerful, and civilized. When the 1955 Thunderbird hit dealerships, it was an instant icon. It had a long hood, a short deck, round tail lamps, and a stance that screamed elegance. But under the hood, pure muscle. It came with a 292 cubic inch V8 engine, making 193 horsepower, more than enough for cruising or cornering. And the exhaust? It exited through the rear bumper, just because it could. Inside, it was just as glamorous. A padded dash, telescopic steering wheel, full instrumentation, even power windows and a signal-seeking radio were available. Ford didn't just build a car, they built a lounge on wheels. And guess what? It was a smash hit. Ford had expected to sell about 10,000 units. They ended up selling over 16,000 in the first year alone. But that was just the beginning. By 1956, Ford had listened to customers and improved the Thunderbird in all the right ways. First, storage. One of the biggest complaints about the 55 was the tiny trunk. The solution? Ford moved the spare tire to the back bumper, giving the T-Bird its now iconic Continental kit look. Second, heat. Early T-Birds ran hot, so Ford added vents behind the front wheels to help with cooling. Functional and stylish? That's Thunderbird logic. They also offered a 312 cubic inch V8 with up to 225 horsepower, making the T-Bird quicker and more responsive. But perhaps the biggest change was philosophical. The 1956 model was no longer just an eye-catcher. It was a genuinely comfortable cruiser, with optional power seats, dual exhausts, and even a removable hardtop with porthole windows. It was clear Ford had found the sweet spot between sport and luxury. Then came the masterpiece. The 1957 Thunderbird is, for many, the best-looking American car ever made. The body was slightly longer and lower. The tail fins were sharper and the rear end was cleaner and more aggressive. The front bumper wrapped around the body, giving it a wider, more planted stance. The interior was refined. The trim, the switches, the steering wheel, all felt deliberate and upscale. But the big news? Performance. The 57 T-Bird offered 4 engine choices, including a supercharged version pushing 300 horsepower. That's right, 300 horses in 1957. It could sprint from 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds, shocking for the era. But more than raw numbers, it was the feeling. Driving a 57 Thunderbird was like wearing a perfectly tailored suit that could punch a hole in time. It was class, it was speed, it was the dream, made metal. People often compare the early Thunderbird to the Corvette, and it's true they were rivals, but they were different animals. The Corvette chased racetracks. The Thunderbird chased moonlight drives and hotel valets. One was sharp and loud, the other was smooth and charming. Ford's gamble had paid off. In every model year from 1955 to 1957, the Thunderbird outsold the Corvette. It wasn't even close. By 1957, Ford had sold over 53,000 Thunderbirds, More than 5 times as many Corvettes that year. That told Ford everything it needed to know. America didn't just want speed, it wanted style. But like all good things, the original Thunderbird's run came to an end in 1957. Why? Because Ford saw a bigger opportunity. Buyers loved the Thunderbird, but many wished it had a back seat. So in 1958, the T-Bird transformed into a larger, 4-seater Squarebird, beginning a new era of personal luxury coupes. That decision sparked controversy, and still does today, but it also skyrocketed sales. Still, for many purists, the 1955 to 1957 Thunderbirds remain the true icons. They were low, lean, elegant 2-seaters, never repeated, never forgotten. They weren't just cars, they were statements. Today, these first-generation Thunderbirds are among the most coveted American classics in the collector world. A well-kept 1955 to 1957 Thunderbird can fetch $40,000 to over $100,000, depending on condition and originality. Limited editions and high-performance variants can go even higher. And why wouldn't they? They represent a time capsule, a moment when America dreamed in chrome and drove with style. They were loved by celebrities, admired by designers, and cherished by anyone lucky enough to own one. Even today, you'll find these T-Birds at classic car shows, concours events, and vintage rallies, still turning heads, still commanding respect. Let's zoom in on the little things that made the Thunderbird legendary. The egg crate grille in the 1955 model, inspired by European sports cars, the chrome jet-age taillights in 1957, pure 1950s Americana, the porthole window and the removable hardtop. It became an icon of its own. The dual exhausts integrated into the rear bumper, both functional and beautiful. And that gorgeous gauge cluster, symmetrical, simple, elegant. These weren't afterthoughts. They were love letters to design. Every T-Bird from 1955 to 57 had a different flavor. The 1955 was the debutante, classy, confident, classic. The 1956 was the problem solver, practical, improved, balanced. The 1957 was the showstopper, bold, refined, and arguably perfect. Each model had its own charisma, its own personality, and yet they all carried the same DNA: freedom, elegance, power. Why are we still talking about a 70-year-old car? Because the 1955 to 1957 Ford Thunderbird wasn't just a vehicle, it was a philosophy. It told Americans, you don't have to choose between style and substance. You can have a car that's powerful and polite, beautiful and brawny. You can have it all. And that message, still relevant today. The T-Bird wasn't just Ford's answer to the Corvette. It was a reminder that cars could be emotional, not just mechanical, that driving could be art, that a vehicle could reflect your personality, your success, your dreams. In a world that moves fast, the Thunderbird teaches us to cruise, to enjoy the ride, to arrive, not just get there. So if you ever get the chance to see a 1955, 1956, or 1957 Thunderbird up close, don't just look at it. Listen to it, feel it. Let it take you back to a time when cars weren't just machines. They were magic. And if you love this journey through one of America's most iconic classics, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive reviews, and let us know in the comments. Which Thunderbird year is your favorite? 1955, 1956, or 1957? This has been your channel name, bringing the classics back to life, one legendary ride at a time. See you on the next drive.